Let's start with introductions. My name is Merit Gilbert. I am one of the implementation leads here at HELP. I am joined, you're actually meeting the whole implementation team here today. I'm joined by Amanda Chow, the Czech implementation lead. And some of you may know that from participating already in the Czech either this year or previous years. We also have Kim Mascarenas with us, who you also may know if you have participated with the MDI. So we are the implementation team at HELP. This webinar probably will take about an hour, maybe a bit shorter, and we'll have room for questions at the end, like I said, and you can just either raise your hand or put them in the chat and we can try and answer as best as we can. We will also record the webinar and we'll make it available on our blog once it's all ready. So our work here at HELP, the Vancouver campus, takes place on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And of course, we offer our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the Musqueam Nation for allowing us to work and study and play each day on their beautiful traditional territory. So here's the webinar overview for today. We'll quickly introduce ourselves, who we are at HELP, a bit of a background on the EDI as well as the Child Development Monitoring System. We'll look quickly at Wave 8 EDI data and trends over the last 20 years of EDI data collection, just to give a better background. And then we are going to look at the steps that are for you related to how to successfully lead the EDI in your school districts. And we'll have a very high-level overview at the end about how teachers would complete the EDI. So HELP is an interdisciplinary research center located at UBC, and it was founded in 1999 by Drs. Clyde Hertzman and Hillel Goldman. And HELP has been dedicated to exploring the differences that make a difference in children's early development, offering high-quality data and research to inform actions to promote equity from the start for all children. Our work at HELP is grounded in the understanding that children live, grow, and learn within many interconnected contexts, which impact their experiences, development, and well-being. And at HELP, we talk about this impact being from society to self. So here are two models that help provide a bit of perspective on the various influences on children's lives. One is from HELP, and the other one, the one to the right, is from the First Nations Health Authority. And this really just shows us the complexity of supporting early childhood development at a population level. Next slide, please. Decades of research have demonstrated that the early years are a time of rapid brain and body systems development, and that children are highly sensitive to these early experiences and the environments in which children are growing. And in fact, early childhood development is a social determinant of health. These foundations created in the early years have long-reaching impact on health and well-being over time and across generations. And this is of significance, not only for each of us individually, but also to us as a society, and that the health of our population affects our collective social and economic well-being. So at HELP, we have been collecting data across critical periods in development about children's early experiences, their health and well-being, their family and community context, through what we call the Child Development Monitoring System, which is a series of 5 questionnaires. So we gather information from parents and caregivers first about children's early experiences through the Toddler Development Instrument, the TDI, and the Childhood Experiences Questionnaire, the CHEC. These are parent questionnaires. Then following that, the Early Development Instrument, the EDI, is completed by teachers about the developmental health of children in kindergarten and has been collected in BC for over 20 years. And then there are the questionnaires that are completed by the youth themselves, either the MDI in grade 4 through 8 or in grade 11 through the Youth Development Instrument, the YDI. And the focus of both these tools is on children's well-being, their experiences inside and outside of school, and the assets present in their lives. Just mentioning too that the YDI is an affiliated population level tool, has close ties to HELP, but is part of our monitoring system, but has been developed and is implemented by Hasina Samji, who has affiliations with SFU and BC CDC. So now we're going to just watch a short video about the EDI that kind of summarizes it, and it's being created by the Offord Center for Child Studies at McMaster University.
A child's early years of life are incredibly important. What happens during the first 5 years has lifelong effects. That's because the brain develops rapidly during these years and changes based on a child's experiences. If children receive good quality stimulation, support, and nurturance during these years, the brain will develop in healthy ways, giving children a strong foundation for future success. Sadly, not all children have positive experiences during these crucial years and lack the stimulation, support, and nurturance needed for the brain to develop in the healthiest way possible. That means there are more challenges for these children as they grow. Many later problems, including school failure, antisocial behavior, teen pregnancy, obesity, high blood pressure, depression, coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, premature aging, and memory loss, can be traced back to early childhood. But if we help children and families early on, we can avoid many of these negative outcomes thanks to the brain's ability to easily change and adapt at this stage, something that becomes much harder as we age. Investing resources during this unique window of opportunity provides the best return on investment, with governments receiving between $4 and $8 back in benefits for every $1 spent on early childhood programs. That is why knowing how our young children are doing is so vital for their future well-being. If we don't know how children are doing, we can't identify any problems, we can't effectively help them, and we won't know if things are getting better or worse. To stay informed about children's early development, communities across Canada and around the world are using the Early Development Instrument, or EDI for short. The EDI is a teacher-completed questionnaire developed by Drs. Dan Offord and Magdalena Janis at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The EDI measures kindergarten children's ability to meet age-appropriate and developmental expectations across 5 general areas: physical health and well-being, emotional maturity, social competence, language and cognitive development, and communication skills and general knowledge. Teachers are best suited to complete the EDI because they know the range of appropriate child behaviors and skills within a school setting. And by the time they complete the EDI in the second half of the school year, they have had plenty of opportunity to see how each child learns, plays, and interacts with other children. After teachers complete the EDI on each individual child in their class, the results are grouped together to give a snapshot of how children are doing across schools, neighborhoods, cities, or even provinces and countries. Children who fall below the standardized EDI cutoff scores are referred to as vulnerable. Research shows that these children are more likely to experience poorer outcomes later in life, academically, emotionally, and in their relationships with peers. Focusing on strengthening the areas in which children are vulnerable allows schools, communities, and governments to make decisions on how to best support early development. Schools may be good at recognizing individual children who struggle, but without knowing the major areas of strength and weakness in the school and community, there can be no action to help all children. Most of the children vulnerable on the EDI do not have any health problems and will not be helped through any other means. Without knowing how all children are developing, schools and communities are left guessing. This is what makes EDI data so important. In many places, collecting EDI data is the first step toward mobilizing communities and engaging those who aren't usually involved in promoting the development of young children. By getting a glimpse of the development and well-being of young children through the EDI, people can be inspired to do something to improve the lives of our young children and help shape a better future in their own communities and beyond.
Okay. So just to recap, the EDI is a population-level monitoring tool, and the data are used to consider the health and well-being of populations of children now and over time. It is not an individual assessment tool or a diagnostic tool, and nor is it ever used to evaluate teachers or schools. So the intention of the EDI questionnaire is to reflect the development of the whole child. And here are the 5 scales again that you heard about in the video. physical health and well-being, language and cognitive development, communication skills and general knowledge, emotional maturity, and then social competence. And when we say vulnerable, we mean that without additional support and care, a child may experience future challenges in school and beyond. And children who score below the vulnerability cutoff on an EDI scale are said to be vulnerable on that scale of development. And research has also demonstrated that the cutoffs have tremendous predictive capability. Being below the cutoff in kindergarten has a direct relationship to children's outcomes in the later grades. So we're just going to look a little bit at some examples, what these EDI scales measure, the domains of development, and each scale, how each scale is made up of a set of subscales. So for the physical health and well-being scale, you can see along the top in green are the 3 subscales, and they include physical readiness for school, physical independence, and gross and fine motor skills. The social competence scale has 4 subscales, and items here are things like the child's ability to get along with peers, to cooperate, to accept responsibility, to follow directions, and also their eagerness to and readiness to explore new things. The emotional maturity scale has 4 subscales and include items such as the child's helping behavior, is the child distractible, do they get into fights, do they seem worried, or do they cry a lot? And the language and cognitive development scale has 4 subscales along the top here as well, includes items such as the ability to handle a book, are they interested in reading, are they able to classify and sort? These are some of the examples of what the EDI covers. And for the communication skills and general knowledge, this is the only scale that does not have subscales, and it looks at communication skills in English and children's awareness of the world. So because this scale is looking at communication in English, we see that English language learners tend to show greater vulnerability on this scale. However, we also know from the research that for many ELL students, that this vulnerability lessens over time as children adapt to school as well as the language of instruction. Okay, so just going to continue now to give you a bit of an idea of the scope of the EDI. Here in Canada, EDI has been collected in all but one of the provinces and territories. And at this time, there are EDI data for over 1.3 million children in Canada. And also, as you can see from this map, the EDI is collected in several international jurisdictions as well. So here's a graphic to show the data collection history for the EDI in BC. The EDI is province-wide, 59 school districts participate, and to date, we have collected data on over 360,000 kindergarten children in BC since 2001. So as you can see here, we group these data collection periods into what we call waves, which encompass either 2, 3, or 4 years. And we invite school districts to participate depending on their size in each wave. So smaller districts may participate more frequently to ensure that the number of children covered in each neighborhood is large enough to be reliable and to track meaningful change over time. Whereas larger districts participate only once in a wave because their numbers are just sufficiently reliable. So this is, this year, 25-26 school year, is the 4th and final wave of wave 9. So your districts here today, this is the final year for this wave. Because this is also a 4-year wave, it's been a while since we released our Wave 8 provincial data. It was in 2022, and that data was collected between 2019 and 2022. So it was collected just before and then after the pandemic. or during the pandemic, before and during the pandemic, sorry. So this graph here shows the trend over time from wave 2, 2004 to 7, to wave 8 of the vulnerability rates on the summary measure, vulnerable on one or more scales, which reports the percentage of children who are vulnerable on at least one of the EDI scales, but maybe experience vulnerability in 2, 3, 4, or all the 5 scales for the province overall. And you can see here that there has been a meaningful increase in the vulnerability rate from wave 2, from about 30% of children to almost 33% of children in wave 8. So 1 in 3 children are vulnerable on one or more areas of development that are important to their future success in school and beyond. So here is the provincial picture of vulnerability on one or more scales across the province for wave 8 by school district. So this is a heat map. So the darker the red, the higher the overall vulnerability rates, and the lighter pink, the white, are the lower. The whitish are the lower rates. So what really is most evident from this map is that there continues to be a significant disparity in vulnerability rates across the province. So at the school district level, the range in overall vulnerability rates go from, again, 22% at the lowest to 72% at the highest. So just take a moment to consider what this really means at the school district level. What extra supports may be needed in a community that has just 22% of their kindergarten children arriving with developmental vulnerabilities compared to a district with 72% of its kindergarten children. And this difference is even more pronounced at the neighborhood level. For wave 8, the range goes from a neighborhood with 13.2% overall vulnerability to a high of 72%. So this really demonstrates that, that children's developmental outcomes are impacted by where they live in the province. And if you actually want to dig more into the EDI data since wave 8, we encourage you to listen to our very recent webinar called the EDI Early Years Disrupted, EDI Data Trends. It actually was just released on Monday, I believe it was, Monday, November 3rd. And it's already on our website if you want to watch the recording. And this really focused on the EDI data trends pre and post-pandemic. And if Kim will probably be able to share that link as well in the chat box. Okay, so while EDI data have provided us with all this important information about trends and patterns in child development across the province, there has been little systematic data collected on the early experiences and contexts of children prior to the start of school at a population level. So this is where the CHEC, the Childhood Experiences Questionnaire, has been aiming to fill this gap and collect data, which may provide some more insight into why we see the variability of vulnerability rates that we see with the EDI data. So school districts across the province are just done collecting data from the CHEC. That ended last week, and hence now gearing up for the EDI. And so first gathering perspectives from the parents and caregivers at the start of the school year about children's early experiences, and then now get the teacher perspectives on the developmental health of the same group of children in February of the school year. So having the data from both these perspectives is not only useful for school districts and community partners, but makes it possible to link the data for research purposes. And here you can see that the CHEC gathers information about early experiences across similar domains as the EDI, physical health and well-being, social and emotional experiences, language and cognition, with the addition of experiences with early learning and care and community and context. So I'd like to also congratulate, if there's anybody here who supported the CHEC project this year. Every year, we collect more data, and we really thank you for your efforts in doing this. So how does the EDI data help you as a school administrator? When a school district participates in EDI data collection, the school district will receive EDI school reports for all the participating schools, as well as a school district summary. These reports will be ready in June following the data collection. These reports are private reports, meaning we don't publicly release them. They will be shared with you, the school district, on our EDI data collection system when they are ready. But again, we of course encourage you and your schools and your to share this information with your teachers, the staff, the parent, caregivers, and the community partners. But it's at your discretion. And if you need any support in your efforts to use the data for any kind of those kinds of purposes, you can reach out to us here at HELP. In the spring of 2023, which now seems a long time ago, we released the school district and community level data through an online data dashboard. So you may already be familiar with this. We have moved away from our, previously we had static PDF reports. And so now you can click around to view the data at a variety of different boundary types and at various levels of data. And one important thing to remember is that the EDI data on our dashboards are displayed, are aggregated by postal codes. So it really shows where children live and the children who live within the boundaries. And because it's based on postal codes, all children are included, meaning public schools as well as participating Indigenous and independent schools. And I encourage you to visit our website, our dashboard. We also just want to recognize and to let you know that the far-reaching value of the effort that you put into the EDI data collection, that this data are actively used by multiple systems, organizations, and policymakers across the province. And on our website, you can find more information, of course, on how the EDI and our child development monitoring system data have been used over the years. And here's just a small example, a small sample of where EDI data have been used at the provincial government policy and investment level in recent years. And just to sort of end this part of the webinar by saying that we could not really do any of this work without your support at the school districts. So thank you. So I'm going to pass it on to Amanda, who is going to look a little bit more at what is the role of a school district lead, as well as a high level of what some tips for teachers.
Thank you, Merit. So your role as a school district lead is to provide support for the schools in your district as teachers complete the EDI and to act as a liaison between the EDI team, so us at HELP, and your teachers. So we will consult and guide and provide ongoing support and resources along the way. And we do truly appreciate the time and energy you spend on the EDI project. So now we'll just look at each step related to successfully rolling out the EDI in your district. So the first place I'd like to point you to is our EDI admin blog. And this blog is really your one-stop shop for accessing all the resources related to completing the EDI in your school district. So it includes important dates, reminders, checklists, and the parent letters. And we'll add, I think Kim already added a link to the blog in the chat. And we do recommend that you bookmark this blog for ease of access. And we will let you know when to share the resources with the schools. And since we're already into November, as a district, we do ask that you start thinking about the format you'd prefer for your teacher training in your district. So teachers new to the EDI questionnaire are required to attend standardized training to ensure that high quality information is being collected. So there are two options to complete this training. Your district can take the lead on an in-person teacher training session in January, or you can ask that your teachers participate in one of the 2 teacher training sessions hosted by us. And for districts that decide to lead their own teacher training, you will be supplied with the core training slides, which we'll show later. And if you're interested in facilitating the teacher training for your district, we do recommend, again, to start planning now. There really is no right way to lead the teacher training, but we're happy to discuss any ideas that your districts might have implemented and best practices for this training. And then we also ask that you please distribute the principal and teacher letters by the end of November. These letters will help inform them about the study and what their roles are in the study. And it'll also introduce both parties to us at HELP and the EDI contact information in case they have any questions or concerns. So in the first week of December, we'll send you an email to log into the EDI system. And this is our own electronic system where teachers will complete the EDI questionnaire. And if you're not already familiar with this EDI system, we have a brief webinar recording we can share which shows you how to navigate the system and what it looks like from the teacher's perspective. Next is the distribution of the parent-guardian informed passive consent letters. These letters are essential that they're distributed prior to the winter break. This is just to make sure that parents and guardians have a full 4 weeks to learn about the study, ask questions, and also decide if they would like to withdraw their child. This timeline is required by our Research Ethics Board at UBC. So by distributing these letters before the winter break, teachers will be able to start the day we open the EDI, so on January 28th. If the letters are sent out later, teachers may not be able to start their EDIs at the beginning of the month of February. So please coordinate with your school administrators and or teachers to ensure that these have been sent out. It's also a good idea to follow up with each school that the letters have actually gone home. Confusion can arise when it's unclear who is sending the letters home with the students. And another thing to note is if you have new teachers or any teachers on leave who are returning to the classroom, it is required that they have been teaching their class of students for at least 30 days leading up to the completion of a questionnaire. And this just really allows the teachers to build a relationship with the students prior to filling out the questionnaire. So, for example, if a teacher returns from leave on January 15th, they will be able to fill out a questionnaire for their class after February 15th. This is also barring the fact that the parent-guardian informed passive consent letters were sent home no later than January 15th. And on the same note, distance education classrooms that do not have regular classroom time should not fill out the EDI questionnaire on their students. Teachers in this circumstance will not have the same ability to build a relationship with their students in order to properly fill out the questionnaire. And lastly, please share the EDI fact sheet on your school district or school website. So this can also be posted to the bulletin boards or sent home with the kindergarten students. So you may have parents, caregivers, or teachers inquire about the consent process for the EDI questionnaire. So it's important to note the EDI does use passive consent, and we have a webpage dedicated to describing our protocols and processes in place around safeguarding data and for inquiries related to security of personal information. So we'll have the URL in the chat box for your reference. And if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can also direct any parent queries to us as well. And if a parent or caregiver does not want their child to participate in the study, they just need to inform the teacher, or alternatively, they can inform us at the EDI team at HELP, and the student will be withdrawn. And the EDI really does rely on teachers. The willingness of teachers to thoroughly and competently complete the EDI on each of their students is vital to the success of the instrument. And without teachers, there really would be no EDI. So we, of course, encourage all kindergarten teachers to participate and rely on their expertise. However, it's important to note the EDI is not mandatory. And another thing to note is that teachers are reimbursed for their time it takes to fill out the questionnaire on their students, as well as the training time. So school districts and schools typically offer the following options for reimbursement. There's a TTOC time or time in lieu, or a buyout of the teacher's time. And it really is up to the school district to determine what options are most suitable for their situation. If you have any questions about this, please be in touch. You can email or call us, and we can take the questions offline, as they're often really specific to the district. And we will also be hosting a webinar later in February. So during the first week of January, we will ask you for confirmation that the parent-guardian informed passive consent letters have been sent home. We will also ask how many kindergarten teachers are new to the EDI questionnaire and what kind of teacher training session you are opting for. We do know that from experience, most districts choose the help-led webinars, so the ones led by us. And if the consent letters are distributed by the district, you will want to let your kindergarten teachers know what date they were sent out. If this date is in January, it will impact the teacher's ability to start completing the questionnaire on their students. And teachers will also be prompted to enter the date the letters were sent home when they log on to the EDI system. And lastly, teachers who are new to the EDI will receive the training. So if you're not offering district training, teachers new to the EDI will register for one of the 2 webinar training sessions that we lead. So they will be on January 7th of next year and January 15th. The EDI opens on Wednesday, January 28th this year, and it will be open until midnight on Sunday, March 8th. We will be hosting, as I mentioned, our teacher reimbursement webinar on Thursday, February 12th from 3:30 to 4 p.m. And you'll also receive prompts to register for this. And the registration link is live on our admin blog and also on the EDI lead checklists. And this webinar will cover the required steps to completing an invoice for teacher reimbursements. So if you do have any questions about the reimbursements, they will likely be clarified at that webinar. You will also receive information on how many questionnaires were completed by each teacher from us once the teachers in your district have completed all of their EDI questionnaires, or after Sunday, March 8th, when the system closes. So our aim is to have all invoices submitted to UBC Finance by March 31st, 2026. And that is the end of your main to-do list. So now I'll just move on to how teachers complete the EDIs. So I'm just going to share some high-level tips for how teachers will complete the questionnaires. These are standardized training slides with content from the Offered Center, just to ensure teachers are provided the same training nationally and internationally. So if your district decides to facilitate your own teacher training, you can use the core training slides that we'll share with you. And I'm only going to speak to the highlights on the next couple slides, since you won't actually be completing the EDI questionnaires yourselves, and we'll share that slide deck and training notes with you following this webinar. So as already mentioned, the privacy of children, families, and teachers is crucial in the work we're doing. And in all our roles, there are important steps to protecting personal information. So it helped we follow the highest standards available to ensure personal information is secure. The EDI project is approved by the UBC Research Ethics Board, and all information that's collected is kept confidential, with the personal identifiers stripped from the data. There are also several steps teachers can take to protect personal information. So we ask that teachers keep children's data secure by keeping their password secure. This also ensures that only teachers have access to the completed EDIs. So if a teacher forgets their password, they can click the password reset button in the system or reach out to us. We also encourage teachers to delete or shred any documents used to help complete the EDI. We here at HELP delete all the data on the EDI e-system once the study has been rolled out, and the final data set is stored on a secure server at UBC. We know that privacy and confidentiality are very valid concerns for caregivers and families, and we are here to share information and resources with anyone who has concerns. We encourage you to direct parents and caregivers with questions to us, and we're more than happy to help. And that's not a piece that the district admins or teachers need to feel responsible for. Okay, and now we'll look at the steps teachers need to take to start filling out EDIs. So first, we ask that teachers receive some form of training, as mentioned earlier. And we want to note again that training is important because it helps support the teachers to make them feel comfortable and confident in the process and system, and also because it supports the collection of ensuring that the data is high quality, which is critical for reliable reporting to school districts and communities. And the way we collect the data is from teachers who are trained and confident when filling out the EDI. So following the training, teachers are encouraged to log into the system before admin starts, and they will again be emailed all of this information. And once they do log into the e-system, they should review their class lists and cross-reference with their attendance records. And we ask that teachers review the EDI guide and teacher's manual in advance, and also have these resources on hand as they complete the EDI questionnaires. So many questions that teachers might have are usually answered already in these resources, which again are both available on the admin blog. And since the EDI is completed online, we recommend that teachers find a place with good internet connection. We recommend using Chrome or Firefox or an updated version of Microsoft Edge. And the first section of the EDI questionnaire asks demographic questions about the student. So we do advise teachers have student records on hand when they're doing this. Some of the information will already be pre-filled from the My Education BC upload, but we recommend that teachers review these responses again for accuracy. And again, I'd like to reiterate that we recommend the teachers familiarize themselves with the EDI Teacher's Manual and EDI Guide prior to filling out the EDIs, and that they have these on hand during completion of the questionnaires. The Teacher's Manual is more of a step-by-step instruction to complete an EDI questionnaire online in the e-system, and then the EDI Guide provides more detailed information about each of the questions within the questionnaire. And now I'll share more about some key dates and time commitments. So the EDI e-system will allow teachers to start filling out questionnaires for their students on January 28th. Again, we'll close March 8th. And each questionnaire takes approximately 20 minutes to complete, and teachers will complete one questionnaire per student. So after completing the questionnaire for a few students, and as the teachers just become more familiar with the questions and process, it's likely it will take teachers closer to 10 minutes per questionnaire. And for this reason, we recommend that teachers complete all questionnaires in one sitting. And then in situations where teachers are job sharing a classroom, we ask they don't complete the questionnaires together. With that said, though, teachers are able to split up the classroom and each complete half the class on their own. Both teachers will need to have their own login information for reimbursement purposes. Now, just for some general instructions and recommendations for completing the EDI questionnaires. First, we let teachers know that when completing the questionnaire, their responses should be based on observation of students' current developmental status. The exception to this is in section C, which explores social and emotional development. So here, responses should be based on observations of the child now, but also taking into account the time since the beginning of the school year as a frame of reference. When completing the questionnaire, we ask teachers to not compare one child to another, to trust their initial response, to observe objectively, to reference the EDI guide, and to refrain from using "don't know" as a response option as much as possible. Too many answers with "don't know" as a response will not be considered valid and will be excluded from analysis. And then if teachers have not seen a child exhibit a particular behavior since the beginning of the school year, the correct answer would be never or not true. not don't know. And now that was just a really high level summary of the teacher experience. So I'll end here with an opportunity to sign up for the Help newsletter with that QR code there. And that's full of resources, updates, and examples of how data from Help's monitoring systems is supporting advocacy and change. And throughout the entire process, again, you and your teachers are welcome to contact us, the EDI team, if you require any assistance or support during any part of the project. We know this is extra work you're taking on, and we are committed to making it as smooth as possible for you all. Contact information for the team is on the screen, and again, it's also found on the EDI blog. And that brings us to the end of the training. A quick reminder that we are recording this and it will be available on the administration blog afterwards. And on behalf of the whole team, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to attend and watch. And beyond that, for the critical role that you all play in collecting information that guides decision-making in our early years sector. So we truly could not do this without you, and thank you. And we can answer any questions if you received any in the chat.
And thank you all for coming, and we're happy to stay on here and raise your hand if you have any questions, or if you think of anything tomorrow, feel free to email us as well.